Welcome to another episode of Medicare Industry Insider, and today we are going to go into depth on the DEFT research, what they call gut check. Basically what this is a survey of individuals on Medicare, and it dives into their feelings, their emotions, what they're thinking coming into this AEP. Again, this is a mid-year study, but I think it's really important. The data we're going to go over is going to look into things like how people are statistically, how people are moving, how they're feeling. It's important this year more than ever because we've got so much turmoil. Everything from the Inflation Reduction Act to an election year to just 90% of people getting negative ADOCs coming up. So there's a lot of things that you need to be aware of, and this is going to help you prep and plan for this AEP.
Absolutely. So DEFT research, obviously a paragon of performance in data amalgamation and data analysis that works with a lot of carriers in the industry, a lot of research firms in the industry, and of course, one of our amazing integrity partners. So very, very pleased to be able to look through this data and use that to help educate brokers, educate agents on what to expect this year. This survey, like Rachel mentioned, middle of the year, so late May to early June, and they collected almost just over 2,700 responses from seniors, many of which had a Medicare Advantage plan currently, but also many that had a Med Sup or Original Medicare only as well. So a good variety of responses, and you'll see as we go through this study that is reflected in some of the questions that were asked and some of the data points that they were able to collect. And a lot of it just started off with kind of, how do you feel like Medicare Advantage plans are going? Do you feel like there is more value in the benefits in the recent years than, say, when you first joined Medicare? And 2 in 5 really strongly or completely agree that Medicare plans are more valuable than when they first joined.
I think that's, I think it's a good thing, but also a bad thing, because this year we've seen a lot of benefits getting cut or shifting a little bit. So knowing that that is that important, that 2 out of 5 people strongly or completely agree that that's mainly the reason they pick those plans, we may see a lot more people looking at, well, is there still value? Should I be looking at a different plan? So it'll be interesting this year.
Yeah, so to the companion data point to back that up is that, only 38% of people, say that they really only care about the core benefits of the core medical benefits of their plan. The vast majority of people do care about the extras, the dental, the vision, the hearing, the ancillary benefits. So it's really interesting to see kind of the perception versus reality difference where, we have a lot of data supporting why people do change plans, and oftentimes it is tied to those core benefits, even though when surveyed, they find that a lot of other benefits are important to them, but important doesn't mean triggering a switch. And I think that's the big difference here. And another big one that I think is worth pointing out is nearly 50% of respondents said that it can be difficult to tell the difference, either strongly or completely agree that it can be difficult to tell the difference between Medicare plans. So especially in a year this year where there are probably going to be more differences in a given market than in years past, just really reinforces the need for educated and equipped agents to help folks sort through the noise and sort through all of the data that's going to get thrown out of this AEP.
You make a very good point. We're going to see more and more carriers becoming more niche products.
Yep.
Mainly because of them trying to filter out where the benefits need to go and what market they want to be in. So I think that's a really good point. We're going to start seeing that. The other question they asked that was specifically about loyalty by coverage type over time. So they shifted from MA specifically, like why do you pick it, to overall what's your loyalty percentage. And what we're seeing is a gradual downfall of loyalty.
Nearly 10% over the past 5 years or so.
So there's actually, this is from 2021 to 2024. On Medicare Advantage, you're seeing a 68% loyalty dropping to a 59% loyalty. On the Medicare Supplement side, 67% dropping to a 55% loyalty. So that is pretty dramatic that we're seeing basically less people being loyal to their plan, loyal to the coverage, which makes you as an agent even more valuable because then you'll need to be getting in front of those people to make sure that the coverage still meets their need.
Well, and I think on the med sup side, it's really fascinating because what we're seeing is not because they categorize these folks in this part of the survey in 3 categories: loyal, passive, or at risk, meaning really likely to make a plan change. And on the Medicare Advantage side, that at risk category has been growing dramatically, whereas the passive category has been relatively stable the past 3 years. But on the med sup side, it's the passive category that is growing faster than anything else. Mm-hmm. We've gone from 13% in 2021 to 14% at risk on the med sup side in 2024, but the passive category has grown from 19% to 30%. So that, as an agent, should tell you that the vast majority of those people that are not super brand loyal are waiting for your advice. They're going to make that move. They're passive. If you tell them it's a good idea to move, they're likely to take that advice, but it does not necessarily mean they're going to seek out other options. So it's really, it's a good way to think about how to prioritize which clients you meet with and when they're met with, but also understanding that they may be a little more open to suggestion than some of your other clients, so you still need to keep an eye on them.
And because of that, the 1 in 3, I guess 30% of MedSup clients being passive, the other thing we're looking at is midpoint of the year, obviously, who all is more likely to feel satisfied with their plans. That was the next question, was satisfaction. So midpoint of the year, 7 out of 10 who are first enrolled in Medicare within the last year and a half indicated high satisfaction of their plan. DEFT has said that is actually lower than they have had in the past. And what they are kind of coming up with is the older your client is, the more satisfied they are with their plan. The main reasons are they probably had a chance to actually use that plan. Maybe they haven't, they don't want to move because it's worked for them. They've maybe gotten paid or it's covered them well. So if you are trying to filter down your clients and running low on time during AEP, taking a look at your older clients and being a little bit more defensive with them is more valuable to you, especially with time being a huge thing that's going to be constraints this year with AEP trying to hit as many people as possible. And then, of course, pre-COVID, there were a lot more people who were very loyal to their plan. So we're seeing like a post-COVID shift where loyalty has definitely dropped over time.
Yep. And I think the big thing to note, again, it's kind of looking at those kind of downstream bars, so that, extremely, very, mostly, or somewhat satisfied, looking at where the growth is. We see that, just looking at the 2020 to 2022 Medicare enrollees compared to new Medicare enrollees, the growth is all in that folks that are mostly satisfied. And again, that's a couple notches down from extremely satisfied. That's basically middle of the pack. I could care less either way. That's kind of the attitude of a lot of those folks. So that's where the biggest chunk of that growth is coming from, not in folks that are truly dissatisfied with their plan, not in folks that are pretty much satisfied. It's the biggest growth, whether we're talking about that loyalty or whether we're talking about that plan satisfaction, is in folks that just, I hate to say have given up, but folks that are just kind of,
I mean, I feel like that's fair to say.
Yeah, they're a little bit stoic about it. It kind of is what it is. It's the system we've got. It's the plan that I've got. They're not necessarily upset about anything, but they're not really looking for anything better either. Yeah. And I think that's where, again, agents can really direct the flow of conversation very well and help get folks into a better plan if one's available, but also can, really prioritize those clients that need to make a change over folks that just need to feel heard and seen.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have those heard and seen people who you for sure still need to meet with because
absolutely
they may switch over to more of a high-risk person if you don't meet with them. So, but yeah, I think prior to AEP or even early AEP, if you can categorize your clients based on age and the type of product, hopefully this can help you categorize people so you're ready to go. The next question they had asked specifically was on HMOs. HMOs, they found that people who are on a HMO are more satisfied with their plan and have lower expectations of being an active consumer in the fall, this AEP. So basically, if you've got people on the PPO plan versus an HMO, you may be able to categorize a PPO plan visit with those clients a little bit higher than HMO. The other thing they looked into is loyalty by MedSup plans. And this is probably not a surprise to anyone when I just had mentioned that seniors who are older, who have used their plan, who have had more experience with their plan, are more likely to stay where they are. A lot of those people are on Plan F.
Sure.
No surprise, Plan F is definitely the most loyal plan at 66%. That was the highest percentage of loyalty for MedSup plans. Plan G is not as loyal as...
it's the least loyal.
It's the least loyal. It's only at 49% versus Plan N is fairly loyal at 58%. Mm-hmm. So if you do have Plan G, that maybe if you're trying to filter out, okay, we got to also meet with supplement people, or we're talking your Part D, you're going to be meeting with those people anyways, bringing up their Medicare supplement, making sure they're still happy, especially if they're on Plan G. They may have gotten some fairly large increases this year. We've talked a lot about double-digit increases. So just making sure that you're also touching base with those people too.
Yep. And I would say, again, look at where that growth is. That growth, again, in that passive segment of the people who responded, that's where all that growth on Plan G is. So 49% loyal, 38% passive. So huge group of people that are, again, just waiting for someone to advise them perhaps, or just, not happy, but not really worried about it either. So don't go thinking, oh, I need to move all my Plan G business. It doesn't necessarily mean those folks are looking for a change. It just means that they are less loyal than even Plan N business being at 58%. So look for those opportunities of which clients are most likely to be movable if you're looking to move MedSup business, and then looking at, for example, there's an other category. So anything that's not Plan G, F, or N. So your Plan Ks, Ls, Plan A business from,
Crazy this are still in the book.
Listen, it is what it is. We still see a Plan J every now and again.
It's a while.
But, those folks are actually more loyal than Plan G. But it's because they probably have a really unique situation that might benefit from the advice you can give them. And then on the Medicare Advantage side, again, same thing. Look at that passive group that is maybe looking for that good advice on, say, 45% loyal, 45% high rating, 45% moderate rating on those PPO clients. So looking at where does the loyalty lie? How can you prioritize those clients? In a year where we expect to need to meet with more clients than ever before, prioritization is going to be really the only way to survive.
Now we're going to look at everyone's wallet.
Sure.
Price sensitivity was the next category they dove into. And this year has been a fun year with lots of inflation, and we've seen it at the pump. We've seen it at the grocery store. If you go out to eat, coffee shops even, whatever direction you go, you're getting hit with inflation. So this year we've seen it kind of across the board in our industry as well. So what the next thing that DEFT did was to dive into price sensitivity and what that means for that client. One of the big things they focused on was MedSup versus MA and what the price variation would be where they'd want to switch. So $5 was the starting point. They looked at $5 and they said MedSups. If there's a $5 increase per month, only 14% would consider switching to a new MedSup, versus on a $5 MA increase, 37% said that they would shop an MAPD.
Absolutely. And I think though those numbers are impressive in my mind, that a lot of folks view MedSup as very stable in the market, and it is in a lot of ways. But you need to look at a $20 a month increase means just over half, but over half of your clients would consider switching plans. Mm-hmm. $20 on your average, let's say you sold someone a Plan G at $150, that is not a huge increase, especially as we continue to see double-digit increases in a lot of markets. And the fact that 14% would switch over a $5 increase, that's actually a huge chunk of people. Even if you only have 100 people in your book of business, it is really hard for a carrier to not take an increase that would raise premiums by $5. And 15 out of your 100 are going to consider making a move. Yes. So really important to take a look at. Now, on the MA side, those numbers are drastically higher. A $20 increase in premium would make 3/4 of people want to look at shopping their plan. But, of course, it's a little different. There are a lot more complexity on Medicare Advantage. Premium increases are less common because premiums in general are less common. So it's typically other factors that we would see. So, you've got 27% of people would consider making a move for less than $5 a month. So, we've had this conversation in the past of, what does it look like to go from 0 to 1? It's a big, big jump. It's like jumping the Grand Canyon. It is really hard to cross that 0 to 1 threshold.
I was thinking of your analogy. And they also said that if a premium is above 0, loyalty is just going to pummel if you have a Medicare Advantage client. So if you've seen a plan in your area that went from 0 to having a premium, definitely take a look at those clients because they are probably more likely to switch or at least shop. The other thing that DEF was looking at was deductibles. So that was something for a Medicare Advantage plan that was also very determining in terms of who is going to shop and switch. Any people who had a deductible increase were more likely to shop and switch. And it was even as simple as $25 or less added to the plan that they were way more likely to shop. So it's been interesting to take a look that is one of the key features on a Medicare Advantage plan that people are paying attention to.
Absolutely. Those deductibles can be a huge, huge shift. But also look at what this is going to do, not just during this annual enrollment period, but early next year. We're heading into a year where the anticipated COLA increase is as low as it has been since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So, as these folks, we know that last year, 44% of people said they would shop that med sup due to a $20 increase. This year, it's 51%. That's a huge increase already. On the heels of a lower than normal, or at least lower than recent norm COLA, January, February, March through second quarter next year, I would look for that trend to continue, if not get even higher as carriers roll out another round of rate increases next spring. So I would really pay attention to those numbers, pay attention to that med sup book of business. And then on the MA side, as we're starting to get most of the carrier information out, really look at those benefits, look at people who have had a massive change in benefits. And again, as we see, it doesn't have to be a massive change always.
Mm-hmm.
But a change in benefits is going to significantly change those folks. So utilize some of the tools at your disposal. Medicare Center, Ask Integrity, the AI tool that allows you to identify shoppers and switchers, is going to be a really useful tool, this AEP,
For sure.
in helping identify that.
Yeah, I think paying attention to that's going to be incredibly helpful. That's a huge AI investment that Integrity's put into Medicare Center for sure. The other thing they looked at was Medicare supplement coverage and premium increases. People who are likely to see an increase and then who are likely to report it, basically meaning like that they were going to notice it. Out of everyone, MedSup premium increases went up to 82% of people said that they experienced some sort of premium increase on their MedSup. 13% said their premium did not increase, so that's a very small, and you know that as an agent, you've seen it all year long. So out of that, a lot of them did report that most of them took between a 5 to 15% increase. So 50% of people ended up with that range. So this is another good point of being an agent, seeing that seniors are paying attention to it. Like, this was a question asked. Did you even notice it? A lot of people did. So just making sure that you are paying attention to those MedSup clients while you're meeting with them during AEP to review their medications, if they're reaching out, just paying attention, and especially knowing now that, a simple $20 increase potentially could cause half your clients to want to switch. So if you're not paying attention to that, someone else might be. Bringing it up when you're having conversations with them is going to be extremely important.
Absolutely. Well, and I think, as always happens every year, we have the discussion of when is enough for a MedSup member? When do they start looking at Medicare Advantage as a lower cost alternative? When do they start considering making that jump from original Medicare to the MA world. And for a lot of members, 62% of MedSup members, the answer is never.
Yeah.
The answer is we will not consider Medicare Advantage. So there are a lot of folks that, for whatever reason, they are locked into that original Medicare, MedSup, PDP, whatever the case may be, as the way they receive care, and they don't plan on changing that.
They like the decision they made. They like the freedom to go anywhere they want. They like paying up front and not having to worry about bills later, and they do not want to switch. They actually threw in, what if you increased it by $50? So we talked about $20 increase. What if we increased it by $50? Would you switch to Medicare Advantage? And only a third of people said that they would switch. So it goes back to the 62, the opposite side, but 62% Medicare supplement members indicated that they would never switch. So the $50 increase is pretty hefty. It is going to indicate, with the $20 increase that we talked about before, is going to indicate that those people are likely to switch, but they're going to switch within Medicare supplements. So the people who are experiencing those rate increases, if you see them and they are enjoying it, you're going to be pulling out those CSG quotes. You're going to be pulling out different Medicare supplement plans to show them, maybe switching them from a G to an N, maybe not even mentioning, maybe high level mentioning Medicare Advantage, but you're going to just know kind of intrinsically that's the direction those people are probably going to go.
Sure, absolutely. Well, and I think if you look at some of these changes, the past several years, 2 to 3% has been the number of folks that move from original Medicare to Medicare Advantage. And I don't think we will see a major jump in that this year, especially in a year with so much chaos in the market. As much opportunity as it provides, it also gives people pause and says maybe we should let things settle down before we make a big change.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is the year where a lot of folks are going to flee to Medicare Advantage like maybe we thought they would early on. Also, I would, and this is not part of the study, but maybe we can reach out to DEFT and get this data. When we look at things like loyalty to MedSup, when we look at those switching rates, even within MedSup plans, I have to wonder how much of that drop in loyalty is affected by the fact that in the past 4 or 5 years, we've had half a dozen or more states add birthday and anniversary. So many people, for the first time, have the option to switch.
Yeah,
when previously they didn't. So
yeah, we've seen a lot of states add those. We're probably going to see a lot more in the next year too.
I would suspect so.
The next thing that they went into is one of the big 3-letter word or 3-letter acronyms that we're seeing again this year: the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, which is not to be confused with a retirement program.
Yeah,
we've seen a lot of people get confused with that. Inflation Reduction Act. So the next thing they went into is just looking at how educated are our seniors when it comes to the IRA. It was interesting. Not as much as you would expect. Only 41% of people were aware of even just a simple thought of the $2,000 cap of the Inflation Reduction Act. They didn't even ask about like the details or what that means to them. They just said, "Are you aware of this?" Only 41% of people were aware that their drug plan is completely going to shift how it works and how it functions for 2025. So 41% were only aware of that.
Yeah, interestingly, the most common thing people did know about the Inflation Reduction Act was that Medicare was now going to be negotiating drug prices starting in 2026. So with that being the most common theme that people were aware of course, a lot of the other things like the catastrophic coverage phase changes, the $2,000 cap, drug price rebates. So even some of these measures that went in place first, for example, the Part B drug rebates, people weren't aware of, even been going on for a year.
So I think that goes back to another reason why agents are so important, because your job is to educate and to keep people informed with what's going on. And I think this year we've had IRA available for the last 2 years. With 2025 coming up, that'll be a big year where we're going to see probably the most significant change with the $2,000 cap and how it affects all the Medicare or the carriers. They are indicating that is going to affect them significantly. This isn't part of DEFT. They had said that going from 11% of their responsibility to 29% of their responsibility. So these carriers are now taking a lot more financial responsibility for the Part D. And we're going to see a lot of subtle things changing with the carriers' plans because of this cap. So the next question they asked was if seniors had any expectations of the $2,000 MOOP basically impacting them in any different way. And a lot of people did not think it would impact them because they didn't think they'd hit the $2,000. They don't realize all the side effects that are going to happen with the IRA. So I think that's going to be another education point for seniors.
Yep. And I would say, the biggest thing is, 69% of people said, well, I already spend less than $2,000, so I don't think this is really going to impact me. But on the other side of the equation, folks saying, well, I think it's going to help me save money. Less than 30% of people, or right at 30% of people, think that it will help them save money, at least mostly, or mostly to completely agree. The vast majority of people are skeptical at best or don't agree at all that this will save them.
43% of people did not agree that it would save them money. So It is going to be interesting. It's called the Inflation Reduction Act. And then people are already coming in with an assumption that it's not going to help them. So.
Absolutely. And only 36% of people were mostly to completely convinced that it would increase costs in other areas of their coverage.
So the other thing they asked was consumers who are aware of inflation. They asked if you're aware of the Inflation Reduction Act. So they took the people who were aware of it and basically said, are you willing to tolerate a premium increase knowing that you know about the Inflation Reduction Act? And specifically, they looked at an increase under $20. They are more likely to tolerate a premium increase if they are aware of the changes and the IRA. So it is going to be an interesting situation where education is going to be key on helping make sure your clients are prepared, educated, comfortable with some of the changes coming up. We actually got told that CMS is not going to be educating anyone. They are not putting anything out about the Inflation Reduction Act. They have said it's the responsibility of carriers, agents, and providers. So it's another really key point of the value of an agent and just making sure that you're educating and preparing your clients for those big changes.
Absolutely. And I think it's all about communication. So whether your clients need to make that change or not, communication, not just of changes, but also of expectations. Mm-hmm. We've talked about in past episodes, clients need to expect to do a little more of their own legwork this year, help you get set up to help them, and doing that in advance, that it's a really bad year to take walk-ins, that you're going to have to make some changes to your process if you want to meet with everybody, and then start doing that defense now so you can get in touch with folks really effectively starting 10/1. So we've got huge opportunity this year, in addition to all these changes and the obvious confusion about them. Because of that lack of loyalty, that reduction in loyalty, there, as we've said in past episodes, 40 to 70% of people anticipated to change plans this year. That is a huge opportunity. That is 14 to 26 million beneficiaries that will change plans this year. And that's Medicare Advantage only. That is not age-ins. That is not med sups. That is not complementary products. That is just Medicare Advantage plan changes. So huge opportunity this year with many carriers pulling out of certain markets. There's maybe a bigger chance than ever to get folks back to a med sup if they have never had that opportunity to go back to a med sup. Lots of changes in the call center world with some large call centers going out of business this year. So folks that maybe previously went through that route for their assistance don't know where to go this year. There's a lot of opportunity for agents to be that voice of calm, collected reason, that voice that is going to help those more passive enrollees make a decision that they may not seek out on their own. And then, of course, those folks that are really likely to switch make those choices as well. And, we barely touched on the election, but with the election going on, and all of the rhetoric and TV time and airtime that will get, it's going to be harder than ever for people to find information. And remember, during the 54 days of AEP, over 600,000 people will turn 65.
Yeah, we've got 11,200 people a day turning 65 now, which is just mind-blowing.
600,000 people are going to turn 65 during the 54 days of AEP during an election cycle. They are going to have an abnormally difficult time finding information, making the choices they need to make. you have the ability to be that resource to find information for them to help them make those decisions. Even if the decision is, I need to delay Medicare, you have a huge opportunity to capture that audience as well in a year where I can't even imagine being new to Medicare in the next 6 months. It would be
so much confusion.
It really is.
There's actually a different DEFT research study that had said the value of an agent. And at the time, it was I-60s, basically agent clients saying that agents were very important in helping them make the most important financial decision of their life, which was choosing a Medicare plan. I have no doubt if they redid that study after this AEP that percentage will go up, because the value of an agent, this is the time to prove it. This is the time to prove it. You can educate, you can help make sure people are disseminating all the information, and honestly just helping them make that most important decision that they will probably ever make, with the most amount of people turning 65 in an election year, with major changes like the Inflation Reduction Act, with major changes to the carriers trying to figure out what does that mean, with a major change to the final ruling this year on how carriers handle everything from leads to literally there's so many little details of the final rule, which we've gone into before. So as an agent, I think this year is an important year to get in front of every client, educate them, categorize, organize your clients so that you can quickly pivot if you need to when information comes out. We haven't seen non-commissionable plans yet. This is being recorded, and I think it's going to go out before October 1st. So at this time, we don't know yet on all the non-commissionable plans. We're still finding service area reductions.
Yep.
There's a lot of opportunities. So this year, be on defense, double check all your clients, organize, categorize, and just make sure you're getting in front of as many people as possible. So hopefully this DEFT research information helped you at least understand who to focus on, how your clients are feeling, and overall what direction to go this AEP. And with that, we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode.